Hey guys, welcome back to Horton's Talk with Tracy, as you know, and myself. And September's the mental health month, and this is something that's really passionate to us because, like we mentioned in our earlier videos, that 1 in 5 Australians struggle with some sort of mental health, and that is only going to increase with the way that we continue to live in the society in which we're in, and we watch the same patterns, the same attributes of what we came from ourselves, from the homes we came from, moving into our new homes with a partner, with marriage, with taking on children. And I've been studying of recent, and have done over the years, to do with the male psyche.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
and the male psyche is such a huge thing. Us guys are very complex, to say the least. And the reason I believe for this, and I think it's simple, yet becomes complicated because how we look at it. Females know how to celebrate their femininity.
That's true.
And I believe that's true by the sense of, as young girls, from the moment that you get your first doll and you start playing with that doll and you dress it and you change its nappies and you do all of these things, you're starting this whole process straight away of who you were created to be on this planet.
Yeah.
With bearing children, with starting homes, making homes, and all this sort of stuff. But for males, it's always noises. It's zooming cars, making brum brum noises, and whatever else that it was that we did. But we're not actually taught to take on our masculinity in the very shape and purpose of what it was created for.
I'm glad you brought this subject up because I think we have a lot to offer on this because I think you're a brilliant example of a man that has owned that. And you've raised 4 daughters that went looking for that. And it's been interesting in the last 10 years when our 4 daughters have each got married to very different men, how those men coming into our family, you know, the forming, the norming, the storming, you know, them getting used to our culture, even our daughters expecting, I guess, maybe the level of maturity they've seen in you from them, and those boys are in their early 20s and not able to have even understood that yet because we don't live in a culture that celebrates that. You know, it is really interesting, and I think this is it. I think there's a key here in the fact that women have had to hold on to their identity because they were marginalised for so many years. You know, they were set apart and they were told they couldn't vote. Then when the Second World War came in, all the men went away and the women started leaving the house for the first time and working. And then when the men came back, they were all just discharged. And there would have been a lot of women who would have been really keen to keep working. But over our cultural time, men have never been marginalised, except for now I think they are becoming marginalised. I think now men are having to really fight for their tribal place in society and the ability to be free to be who they are. You know, I look at the boys that have come into our home, and you know me, I was so excited to get sons after 4 daughters, and it was such a big deal for me to realise how different they were to women, to the girls in every single way.
Totally. The challenge today for men is to stand up and be men. And I think there's 2 aspects to men. There is men as what we would call the lion.
Yeah.
And there is men who are the lambs.
Right.
Now, they're not segregated.
No.
They are one. We need to learn to be lions and we need to learn to be lambs. And what I mean by that is that naturally we're hunters.
Yep.
We are men who go out and we hunt. And obviously in, let's say, olden day times, we literally went out to hunt, to kill an animal, to bring it home so we could feed our family. As time has gone on, that whole nature of men is still within us, of being hunters, but we take on this attribute of, just as when we went and found our first love, we were out hunting, and that was the task in which we were setting out to do. The challenge that can come into that is, as we're seeing within our marriages today, is that people are being married, 2 and 3 and 4 and even 5 times, because there's becomes complacency within the home, and there's still that hunting attribute within men that need to go out and hunt again.
For sure. And I think, when you look predominantly at men, as we're talking about today, they don't ever get to take time out. They don't get to stay at home with the kids for the first 5 years. It's becoming more and more accepted, but it's been really frowned upon in the past. If a man loses somebody important to him and he's grieving, it's kind of expected that he'll dumb that down. He'll bury that. And I think, like you say, yes, you're meant to be these conquerors and these achievers, and every family is very secure when a man can do that.
Yeah.
But also, like you said, there's that lamb inside of you, which you do beautifully, especially, which is why our daughters are such incredible women, is that softness that you allow to come out.
Yeah.
And, in many cultures that's not understood. And I think it messes with a man's mental health, because he's still going to have an identity crisis. He's still going to have to deal with grief. He's still going to have to process, things around his children, around his wife. And I think, especially if something happens, like somebody hurts you, somebody does something to your family. I know growing up we've had moments where the girls have had stuff happen that we couldn't control or affect, and the way we both dealt with that was very different.
Very different.
And you had that, I can remember one time in particular, you had that killer instinct. All you wanted to do was deal with it.
For sure. Like I said earlier, this is Mental Health Month, and you might be saying to yourself all of a sudden, what's this all got to do with mental health? But it is the essence of that men, as we're looking at hunting, can go out and be CEOs in large companies. We can run big businesses and do it very successfully, and yet then come home and not know how to deal with marriage and family and children, and dealing with those sort of issues, which then we need to put aside the lion and bring the lamb into play, where we are loving and romantic and sexual and all of those things that build a marriage, and a great marriage, as well as then with children, and that we're coping with how to bring that lamb, that nurturing, into raising, say, 4 girls and our children. And alongside the mental health is that as men, that we're not continually walking and moving in our families and our marriages, and we're more walking out, that so many homes now do not have a father in them, and if there is a father within them, he is a very neutral person. He's not able to show that love and that kindness and the nurturing and the caring that needs to come into play. And so as fathers who are feeling very inadequate, who can, yes, be a CEO, run a business, then come home and feel very inadequate to be able to run a family.
Yeah, for sure.
And so therefore our family structure is falling down, and whether dad leaves or whether he remains at home but is not giving the family what is needed, that fathers are raising children in a way where the kids are not receiving what's needed.
For sure. So can I step on a political landmine for a second?
Go ahead.
I want to call out Nickelodeon on this, because I was with my grandkids the other day, and you and I both said we couldn't believe it. The amount of children's programs where the dad is made out to be an idiot. He can barely tie his shoelaces, and the kids are forever giving him a hard time about it. You know, shame on you, whoever is making those programs, because you are undermining a very, very important issue, and this is this. Men are created to be analytical and strong so that everybody can flourish under them. And to make them out to be an idiot that a teenager plays practical jokes on is just stupidity. And while you may be calling out something that is becoming more prevalent, you're actually also teaching the younger generation to do it, and shame on you, to be honest. Because here's the thing, we are a universe that is created with both feminine and masculine energy. And when we put the masculine energy in a bottle and say it can't be everything it needs to be because of the man who hits a wife, or because, you know, like we've gone so far politically correct guarding this, all the good guys are sitting in our pubs and drinking their feelings away. Because here's the reality, every man has a right to have feelings, every man has a right to have a say, and if we want a healthy community, we need to let men talk, we need to let men be, and I think more and more we need to have opportunities for men to tribe and to gather. Just recently you've joined a golf game, and I love it because it is one of the things where you go and hang out with men, and you don't talk like my girlfriends and I, you don't behave like my girlfriends and I, but mentally it's healthy for you to do that.
Definitely. One of the positives that I've found in it is that I'm playing golf with guys that are in their 40s, their 50s, their 60s, 70s, and their 80s.
Nice.
And it's just so refreshing. It's so refreshing to see that older generation that sometimes when we're driving down the road and they're driving cars very slow and we're getting so frustrated with, and we often sort of think, you know, like, what are old people good for? Well, they're great for whatever sphere of energy and place that you're dealing with them, that they've got such a freshness about them. And that they may be very much at the end of their lives, but they've got so much to offer, to teach, to show, and for our society, because we're so busy now, that whole arena is lacking, where a grandfather or an older gentleman or older lady is inputting and speaking into the lives of younger generations. But we're so busy in our generation and younger that we're not making time for it. We isolate ourselves. We have thoughts and emotions that we feel that we shouldn't be having because we're in a marriage and a relationship and we have children, and we're feeling guilty because of what we're thinking. And from that, we just stem this place of hiding away, of even feeling insecure at times, and not knowing how to climb out of that.
Yeah. And for every man watching this, I promise you that if you start talking about it, I guarantee you all your mates will have something to say. You've been listening to Paul and Tracy Horton on Horton's Talk. Please like and subscribe.
Thanks, guys.